You're watching Channel 6, WDSU TV, New Orleans. And now, Norman Robinson, Susan Rosegen, AMS meteorologist Dan Milham with weather, and Skip Baldwin with sports. This is Channel 6 News Tonight.
They make their living poking fun at people, and tonight they're turning their pins loose on New Orleans. Also, you'll hear the story of a Chinese woman. She was smuggled into the U.S., and tonight she's still hiding. But first, people in this neighborhood are fed up with crime, and tonight they're taking back their streets. Good evening. I'm Norman Robinson.
And I'm Susan Rosegen. It's the worst possible problem when you know there are drug dealers on your own street, when crime comes often and openly, and you can't get anyone to do anything about it. That's what confronts people who live near Uptown in the Gerttown area. This is a neighborhood that has to help itself, and Janet Witters is there to show us how.
Susan, basically what they had to do is do it so many communities have decided they have to do as well, and that is to organize. But it's more than that. They have decided that they need to hold the leaders responsible. Community leaders, the city council, the police, anyone who might be able to help them in their dilemma. This is just another way that people are getting together to try and save our streets.
First of all, we're going to take them back with prayers, and we're going to take them back with programs that can help keep them off the streets.
Deliria Rancifer is one concerned resident. Lillian Castaigne is another.
All of this stuff is destroying the neighborhood. But if everybody moves out of it, you don't have a neighborhood.
They see abandoned buildings, grime, and crime in broad daylight, and they're frustrated.
But what I cannot understand is if you can see them, and you tell the police why they can't ever see them.
So are council members and police. They met knowing they wouldn't find immediate solutions, but they could find common ground in the fight against crime.
It takes the people to come together and for them to demand change in order for change to occur.
But some residents insist they've heard this all before in meeting after meeting after meeting. And they're suspicious of empty promises, but they still have some room for hope.
You don't need to think your crime and drugs will stay here, because once they've conquered it, they're going on into the more affluent neighborhood. So if you can't correct the problem here, you can't correct it anywhere.
Through persistence, this group has already gotten one victory. They are getting a police substation in their neighborhood. Susan?
Well, Janet, they may have been to a lot of meetings, but you know, there is strength in numbers.
That's right. And that's the one thing that they can hope for, that people will listen, because there are so many of them.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Norman?
Well, tonight, police are still investigating another violent episode in New Orleans. Officers found 39-year-old Sadie Swain stabbed to death inside her home on Plum Street. Police also found 42-year-old Ronald Lawson, who's now charged with second-degree murder. Officers say the two were arguing when Lawson allegedly pulled a knife and stabbed Swain. This latest killing brings the city's murder total now to 203. And experts are warning us to expect an increase in murders during the summer months. They found a statistical connection between heat and homicide.
Those findings show that there is no ceiling, that the hotter it gets, the more there's a direct increase in the number of homicides.
And the numbers from last year appear to prove that theory. Homicides in the third quarter were nearly as high as those from the first half of the year combined.
But in West Wego tonight, the police are getting ahead of the crooks. They've made a big dent in the local drug problem. The police spent the day rounding up street-level drug dealers. They've made 12 arrests so far, but they're not finished. They have 25 names on their hit list, and the arrests are the result of a year-long undercover investigation. And some serious allegations tonight about the Orleans Parish Prison.
And what Chinese immigrants jailed there are being forced to put up with. Dawn Witt joins us now with an exclusive report. Dawn?
Norman and Susan, it is really unbelievable. Some of these immigrants have been in the Orleans Parish Prison since June of last year. And what they're dealing with will shock you. We spoke to one very scared woman tonight who's glad to be out of jail, but she's still looking over her shoulder. This young Chinese woman is so afraid of the men who smuggled her into America, she did not want to be identified. We'll call her Carolyn. She was smuggled out of China on this ship a year ago. It took on water near New York. The authorities were called, and the refugees wound up in prisons all over the country.
I don't think I will do that again, because the experience what I had is just terrible. It's unbelievable.
Carolyn and 49 other men and women were sent to the Orleans Parish Prison, and our sources say there are now more than 120. Carolyn says they're cut off from everything.
When I was locked in the jail, the major problem because we can't speak, I can't speak English that well, and all the police women, they kind of discriminate us and kind of have a, very prejudice, on us.
They did not get any Chinese reading material, and none of them can speak or read English, and their attorneys have no idea what's going on inside.
We really have insufficient responsiveness to the need to know information about who is in there, under what conditions are they allowed to be brought there, and what are they doing in there.
Carolyn says other prisoners and prison guards bully the immigrants. And once, after another prisoner pushed Carolyn out of the shower, Carolyn was thrown into isolation for 3 days. And some of the immigrants have told liaison workers they've been molested by prison guards. Carolyn is also terrified the men who smuggled her over here will find her. You see, the smugglers charge the refugees $30,000 per person to come over here. And those like Carolyn who still owe them part of that money fear the smugglers will find her and brutally torture and maybe even kill her. And Norman, we did try to talk to Sheriff Foti, but he did not return our phone calls.
Perhaps we'll have better luck tomorrow.
Hopefully.
What a nightmare. Thank you, Dawn. Well, in New Orleans tonight, some people who depend on government checks are wondering how they'll make it. They were the real victims of those recent postal thefts. In the past several weeks, thieves have targeted mail trucks looking for and stealing government checks. And it's tough for the people who need that money.
We had to call up all our people that we owe, even for the house, and and told them that we couldn't pay them because someone had broke into the mail truck and taken our check.
If that story sounds familiar, here are 2 numbers to call for information about replacing those checks. For Social Security, the number is 1-800-772-1213. And for a missing welfare check, the number is 826-2155. And postal inspectors have already told us they have some strong leads, and tonight they say they're close to solving the case.
On a brighter note now, hundreds of young people are in line for jobs this summer thanks to a new program announced by the mayor today. Mayor Mark Morial says young people between 14 and 21 can help improve neighborhoods and work in other areas of the city as part of the mayor's team. Morial has combined local and federal funds along with a lot of cooperation from local businesses to get the program off the ground.
We have a responsibility, if we are serious, to demonstrate to young people the importance of the work ethic and demonstrate to young people that if they get a legitimate job, they can make some legitimate money, and there's a way to do it, and we have a responsibility to provide those opportunities.
Applications for the new jobs will be taken at 4 locations this Saturday only. For more information on how to apply, call 826-1615. Next Wednesday, applications will be drawn randomly to fill the 1,500 positions. That's the same day summer camps open around town. For more information on that, call 826-1770. Susan?
And now to something that kids and adults can both get into. 250 of the sharpest wits in the country are in New Orleans this week. They are editorial cartoonists putting their pencils to work.
You may not recognize any of these faces, but you've probably seen their work. They tickle your funny bone and tweak the rear ends of the high and mighty.
We're trying to think of a good theme here for New Orleans. So I have the president saying, "It is a crawdad in my pocket, and I am happy to see you." Sorry.
And here's our own Walt Handelsman, our nationally loved local cartoonist.
The president is a Channel 6 viewer, I take it.
Of course. When he's in New Orleans, when he's finished reading the entire Times-Picayune, he turns on TV and watches Channel 6.
I think what most of the editorial cartoonists in the country, and we all have our little kingdoms, and what we do when we come here is kind of look at each other and see, who's getting noticed and who's in Newsweek and who's winning Pulitzers, and you're kind of measuring, am I going up or down or where?
They also give inspiration to the next generation of cartoonists.
In classes, if teacher's giving a lecture or something, I'm not supposed to, but parents aren't that proud of it, but sometimes I draw little cartoons on the side. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are just little sketches.
Well, that's how Walt Handelsman got his start.
Yeah, I read about that. In fact, in the first page of his biography, it says he was not really that good of a student. But in the sides of his textbooks, he did exactly what I did.
He has a great future as a cartoonist if he does not pay attention in class, acts up, and draws in the margins of his notebooks. He's well on his way to becoming a cartoonist.
Well, if you'd like to meet some of those crazy characters, just wander over to the Royal Sonesta lobby. That's where they'll be hanging out tomorrow.
All right, still ahead, a new warning about the dangers of rollerblading.
Also, how to pick the right summer camp for your kids. And Dan, let's hope you've cooked up a good forecast for tomorrow.
Well, we're still under a weather watch tonight. I'll show you what the rain's been doing and what's in store for tomorrow.
Tonight, people across America are remembering a baby girl who was never well enough to leave the hospital. Her name was Angela Lakeberg, and she was separated from her Siamese twin sister last August. The doctors knew that the sister would have to die so Angela could live. But Angela herself died today, just a few weeks short of her first birthday.
We're quite sad that, of course, that's happened. All work very hard, all kind of consider themselves surrogate parents for Angela as we see her every day, greet her, say hello to her. She smiles back, so we're quite saddened.
Angela had severe breathing problems, and she was never well enough to go home.
And in Atlanta, an early morning fire has destroyed the home of an Atlanta Falcons wide receiver. And that story tops tonight's Look at Your World in brief. The fire started in a second-floor master bedroom. It destroyed the $861,000 home of Falcons receiver Andre Rison. Rison was not home at the time, but his girlfriend has been charged with arson. In Los Angeles, a judge says it's okay to read Playboy magazine at the firehouse. A fire captain sued because the magazine was banned by the department's sexual harassment policy. The judge says the captain can read anything he wants, as long as he does it in private. At the Vatican, Pope John Paul II has called on the international community to stop the killing in Rwanda. The pontiff is upset because soldiers who were supposed to be guarding a group of clergy killed them instead. An archbishop and 9 priests were part of the group. And in New Jersey, a children's librarian is charged with masterminding a terror campaign against supermodel Stephanie Seymour. The librarian mailed death threats to the model with co-workers' addresses on the envelope. She wanted revenge against people who snubbed her at work. Now the librarian faces 20 years in jail. And that's your world in brief. Also, the federal government is warning people tonight, especially children, to take extra care when rollerblading. It's a graceful-looking sport, but it's also dangerous. Federal officials say they are alarmed at the astounding number of injuries associated with rollerblades. Last year, 36,000 ended up in hospital emergency rooms. This year, the number could reach 83,000.
This sport is dangerous, and the injuries are serious. This turns out to be an intrinsically very dangerous sport.
43% of the injuries are broken bones, 26% wrist injuries, and 13% are head injuries. 60% of those being hurt are kids less than 16 years old. 6 children have been killed since 1993. Susan?
Well, a little safer activity for kids is a summer camp, especially 2 that Lucinda Lang shows us. These are not the kind of camps where kids sit by the fire and toast marshmallows. These are camps that teach kids everything from acting techniques to E=mc².
Kids at play, what summertime is all about, right? Well, for these kids, summertime play comes after nearly 6 hours of grueling math and science classes. At Dillard, the pre-engineering program is serious business. These students are happy for the chance to learn.
I want to be a chemical engineer. I like science and math, so I wanted to get in this program a lot.
Ryan is one of 80 students selected from more than 2,500 applicants. What makes this camp sought after? The people who run it feel they're on a mission to increase minority involvement in scientific fields.
If a person hasn't taken certain basic science and math courses early on, that he or she has almost no chance for success in pursuing these careers and these professions.
And if the arts happens to be your child's pursuit, then Newman Summer Camp is where he or she needs to be. These students are learning to express themselves through performance. There are loads of choices for kids this summer. The key is pinpointing your child's interests.
And that was Lucinda Lang with that report. For more information, you can call Newman Summer Camp. This is the number 896-8578 or Dillard University Summer Program 283-8822.
And next, it's another steamy night. Meteorologist Dan Milham will tell us if it'll be that humid again tomorrow.
And America's wackiest duck celebrates a big birthday.
You're watching Channel 6 News Tonight with Norman Robinson and Susan Wojcik.
All right, get your pen and paper out. It's time for a weather lesson with meteorologist Dan Milham.
I will make this as simple as I can.
Okay.
But every once in a while, I like to educate people a little bit, share with them some of the things that might be happening, creating the weather.
And why not?
That affects them so dramatically. You may have heard the term boundary before. There are several kinds of boundaries. It usually means an area where the air mass changes from one thing to another. Well, you see, when you have a thunderstorm, we've told you before about the air that flows down and out of a thunderstorm. We call it the outflow. And as it pushes out from the thunderstorm, it can cause other air in the area to lift, creating new lifting, new condensation, and a new line of thunderstorms. So if we ever talk about thunderstorms forming ahead of one line in another line called an outflow boundary, that's what it is. We still have a severe thunderstorm watch for our area. There isn't anything severe in the area, but the watch is still effective until midnight tonight. Go back with me now through the time lapse of the radar to 6:30 when rain was moving into St. Tammany and Tangipahoa parishes and moving into town from the west. It rained pretty heavily out there in Kenner and LaPlace and all the way toward Baton Rouge. This stuff then continued to sag southward and lost some of its strength as this area of lighter and moderate showers really blossomed on the North Shore. Another line moved into Washington and upper Tangipahoa parishes. Through 8 o'clock, that was starting to dissipate and break up, so scattered rain North Shore. It had all gone away South Shore. Now we got thunderstorms by 9 o'clock in Mississippi, and through 9:30 and 10 o'clock, we had a big line here. Look at that, moving through Casino Row, rocking the boat over there on the Gulf Coast. They're continuing to move out over the water. Now here's a look live through the city cam at the Twin Bridges at the Crescent City Connection under some cloudy skies with 70s, cooled by the rain and clouds this evening. Instead of the 80s we had the past 2 nights. Humidity, of course, right up there at 85%. Pressure 30.02 inches of mercury and a west wind now. It's variable with all these little showers and thunderstorms around, 6 miles an hour now. The pattern hasn't changed. It's just that this evening's thunderstorms really blossomed on both sides of the lake at different times. So each day, whether you're here or down there at the beaches at Grand Isle, or maybe you're going over to Biloxi for one or both days of the weekend, or Florida, still it's going to be hot. There'll be a few clouds and they'll get bigger and darker in the afternoon, and thunderstorms will be scattered all around the Gulf Coast. The boaters' forecast is the same as well. Only time those winds will pick up is around those thunderstorms, and the highest tides run anywhere from 9:30 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Here's your overnight forecast. The rain is dying out. It's spreading out, so we'll say partly cloudy and warm later tonight through the early morning hours. The breakfast temperature, say about 8 o'clock, 80 degrees already, stuffy, warm, and some sunshine coming through. Again, by afternoon, we will look around on the radar, and you look around outside the window. You'll see some dark clouds, maybe over your head, maybe over somebody else's. Otherwise, the temperature will once again be up into the 90s. After all, this is a 90s kind of program, and it's going to be a 90s kind of forecast for the foreseeable future. Yeah, it's a summertime pattern, but yeah, these temperatures are consistently above average for this time of year, 3, 4, and 5 degrees, because we've had such a consistent flow of warm tropical air. It's really heating up out there.
We feel it.
You know that, didn't you?
Okay, Dan. Well, ahead in sports, Camp Curly is underway in Baton Rouge.
And later we'll fish the rip with Bob Goose. Skip is next.
Tonight, Jay Leno's really jazzed to have Billy Crystal and basketball superstar David Robinson. And on Late Night, Conan welcomes Victoria Jackson. NBC Night Shift tonight.
Nobody can really figure this one out in the sports world. You got a winning coach and you get rid of him after a year.
I think he decided to move on to bigger and possibly some better things. We'll have to find out in the next coming days. I think that's what's going to happen. John Lucas says he needed a fresh start, and that's why he's resigned as head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. His, quote, fresh start may be with the Philadelphia 76ers. A report is out that Lucas has been offered that job. He did coach the Spurs into the playoffs the last 2 years. His departure today, though, shocked many players, including David Robinson.
You know, I love John. He's been, I think, you know, it's pretty well documented. He's been my biggest supporter, biggest fan, and I think he has helped me come along as a basketball player as much as anybody I've ever been around. And I'm just disappointed.
He is disappointed. Well, John Forcade's stay with the Shreveport Pirates lasted only a couple of days. The former Saints quarterback was released today. Forcade was trying to make another comeback. He played with the Saints in the late 80s, also spent a little bit of time in the Arena Football League. Shreveport is the new entry into the Canadian Football League. Former Tulane quarterback Terrence Jones is on the Pirates roster. Well, a new look at Curly Hallman's summer football camp in Baton Rouge. A lot of New Orleans area high schoolers are taking part for the very first time. In fact, 190 student athletes, and many of their coaches from here in New Orleans are also involved in this camp. Not a bad public relations move on the part of Hallman, who has had some trouble recruiting this area.
First time I've ever done a college football camp. I think what we wanted our kids to come, it's their first opportunities, to give them a chance to experience college life as it pertains to football. Our kids have really responded well. They realize that, we came up here to have fun, but there's a lot of work also.
Well, Jeff Fahrenbruck of Plano, Texas, has a 3-stroke lead going into tomorrow's final round of the Freeport-McMoran Junior Golf Classic. Today at English Turn, he fired a 3-under par 69. Look at that. He's now 11 under for the tournament. Rosie Amata of Florida is 3 strokes back at 8 under. Michael Henderson of North Carolina is at 4 under. Brian Wright at 3 under. Jeremy Anderson is at even par on the girls' side. Grace Park of Phoenix is the leader at 7 over par. Check this shot out by Greg Norman today at the Buick Classic. Easy, right? Over the hedge, over the trap, onto the green, and yeah, salvage par. Norman 2 over though on the day. Mike Reed is the leader at 6 under. By the way, Kelly Gibson of New Orleans, a 3 under 68 today. He's just 3 off the lead. Well, it's Thursday night. That means it's time to check in with our resident fisherman, Bob Gouge. Tonight, he's in the Gulf waters off Port Fourchon, and he's fishing the Rip in this week's Between the Banks.
Got them on. As you can see, we're trolling ballyhoos behind here for dolphins. But there's another story here. Along this rip, you'll see Reggie and I are set up with jigs, and when lemonfish come out, we've got Todd Foray and we've got Renee Rice up on the top. They're spotting these lemonfish for us, and what we're doing is we're just gonna flip our bait out to them and see if we can hook some lemon. Bring him in, Steve-O. I've got the 3 Admirals on the back of the boat, rigged up with a little ballyhoo rig right here. And what Reggie and I are doing is pitching these jigs. You can't beat this kind of action. For WDSU, I'm Bob Gouge.
Got a big one tonight. Tonight, it was the best and worst in Major League Baseball. The first-place Yankees paying a visit on the last-place Blue Jays. How did it turn out? Well, Toronto played like defending World Series champions. Look at Alomar at second, over to first in time. Buck Showalter says, okay, now what else you got? How about Joe Carter? And that's down the left field line. Molitor scores the 60th RBI for Joe Carter this year. And look at this. The Jays beat the Yankees 7-5. What a surprise that is, huh? Texas leads Kansas City in the 8th. Milwaukee knocked off Cleveland, Minnesota over Chicago, and Detroit, California just getting underway. National League scoreboard, Philly beats St. Louis tonight 6-2. Pittsburgh beats Florida 3-1. Cincinnati over Colorado. The Expos shut out the Mets 9-0. And in the American Association, Nolans knocks off Oklahoma City tonight. The winning pitcher, Steve Sparks, 5-2 was the final.
Good.
That's sports.
All right, Skippy. Just ahead, he's been quacking us up for years.
And tonight, Walt Disney's Donald Duck is celebrating a big birthday.
Between the Banks is sponsored in part by your Peace of Mind carrier dealers.
Finally tonight, a big birthday party for Walt Disney's Donald Duck. Donald is 60, but he doesn't look it, and he's not about to slow down. This plucky little duck made his big screen debut way back in 1934 in a Disney cartoon called The Little Wise Hen. Now he is a favorite in 76 countries, and the folks at Disney say that Donald has always been a favorite with the animators who draw him, and I can see why.
Yeah, it's always been my favorite.
It's cute.
That's our news. Be sure to be back tomorrow morning.
Chris and Steve will tell you how to get great vacation pictures out of those new disposable cameras.
That is at 6 on Channel 6 News today. Till tomorrow, good night.
Good night.